All right, today is full of tech surprises, but I'm just happy that it's not my fault this time. All right, I'm waiting for everyone to join, making sure everything's working. All right, looks like everything is good and we are back up and running. Okay, so now I want to introduce songwriter, producer, frontman, badass philanthropist, Ryan Tedder. Okay, bringing on Ryan Tedder, everybody.
Yo,
Yes!
there it is.
You've been having some tech problems too. I don't know how. I see you live all the time.
I'm telling you though, Miley, it has been, I don't think I've gotten live maybe one time without connection not happening, Wi-Fi not happening. And then 2 nights ago, Instagram Live went down across the whole country for about 45 minutes.
That's what was happening right before the show, which I was a little bit panicked. But the good news is no one's really going anywhere, so they're not going to miss the show no matter what. And all my fans are writing, it's okay. We have nothing else to do but wait. So
Yeah, I call it the United Nations of boredom.
yeah, so I want to talk to you about how you've been staying bright in dark times, because your lives and your attitude during the crisis has just been as inspirational as, you know, your songwriting. So what have you been doing just to mentally stay in, you know, light and illuminated?
Well, when we got back to the States almost 2 weeks ago today, I'll make it a very short story. We were doing a miniature, what you'll understand as an underplay tour, right? You do 6 or 7 small venues to set up for your arena tour that comes months and months later. We had to cancel Milan because they closed the border on us as we were headed to Italy. But we couldn't really get a sense of how crazy this thing was. Then we got to London. We played it. I wasn't quite taking it seriously yet because I just was kind of detached and on tour. And then as I'm landing at LAX, a good friend of mine who I had spent the entire previous night with, dinner, we shared pizza, we shared food, drinks, hung out. He was in the hospital. So he texted me from the hospital. He's like, mate, I'm so sorry, but you need to go straight to a doctor. You need to get tested. I have coronavirus and it sucks. I'm in the hospital. And then my publicist who was with me all day, she came down with it. So I called my doctor and he said, go straight to your studio. Don't go home. Don't see your kids. Don't see your wife. Go home. So the first 3 days, I was kind of emotional because I'd been away from my family for 2 weeks. And then like the third day I snapped and was like, you know what, screw this. Let's do live concerts every night for free. Let's do a cooking show. I'm going to start quarantine cuisining every single night. I love to cook, and let's just connect. Let's connect with the rest of the world. And I swear to God, that interactivity has kept my sanity. It's just like making music and reaching out, just what you're doing. This is what has kept me sane.
Yeah, we were talking yesterday. I was doing something with Instagram, and this quote from Willie Nelson, he said, the minute I counted my blessings, my whole life turned around. So the minute that you kind of start looking at what you have, which, you know, I am definitely not oblivious to, our situation is, you know, very unique, and a lot of people have a lot more struggles and stress around this time than I do. But if I can bring some peace and, you know, brightness, and not necessarily even optimism or don't worry, be happy. Because on the show, I talk about worry is a necessity to allow us to do what we need to do. You know, worry keeps us washing our hands because you're worried about keeping your wife and kids safe. Worry is very healthy, but if we can push pause on anxiety and worry for an hour and just have a good time and think about songwriting, maybe you could convert that worry and anxiety into a song, which we do all the time.
100%. I think that what you do with it, because we all feel it, and I don't know about you, but like I have days where I go the whole day and I don't even think about what's going on really, and then I'll have a day like yesterday watching the governor and the mayor having a conversation and telling us it's going to be 2 more months. I had a moment yesterday. I had a freak out yesterday for like an hour where I literally was like kind of doing one of these things like, oh my God, 2 months. Wait, what? Like, and then I just kind of chilled and I was like, wait a minute. I'm not being asked to go to war. We're not being asked, like you've seen all the memes. Everybody's gone meme crazy for the last 2 weeks. but all the quotes about like our grandparents got asked to go like sacrifice their lives and do all these things. We're being asked to stay indoors, watch Netflix, get on Instagram, talk with each other, and interact in new and unique ways. And I think that you are doing, I use you as an example when we talking with Interscope, my record label, and different people. How do you provide levity? We're not providing, like, we're not saying it's all okay, don't worry about anything. What we're providing is levity, and we're providing humor, and music to me is the most cathartic thing in the world. And that's what you do, that's what I do. In songwriting, the amount of songs that are going to come from this experience, I think it's going to be a lot.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, you know what? I think it's a really important talking point, just about not encouraging for every day to go, we're going to get through this together. Like, you know, someone actually said to me one time, like, don't worry, it's going to happen. And I said, it's not going to happen. I'm going to make it happen by my choices. So the more, even though it seems crazy, the more you stay home, the quicker you will get back to life as we know it. The more that you make these sacrifices, the more that, you know, you'll get rewarded in return. The more that we act irresponsibly or go, you know, not being considerate towards others, will just make this process take even longer. And so I think saying, you know, that we're using this platform for people to not worry, we're in a unique position where we do have to worry less, because not much in my life is going to change, but a lot will change in other people's lives. So if we can bring an hour of, you know how you said some days you don't think about it at all, if we could bring an hour of that, of just pushing pause on the worry, I would feel like my job is done. And that's what songwriting does, not just in pandemics and not just in crisis, but in heartbreak, when you lose a family member, or when you fall in love for the first time, or you go on, you know, you get kissed. Like, this music narrates our life and narrates our story. And so
it's
we
the
use
soundtrack.
music to heal all the time.
Yeah, music is the soundtrack. I got into music because I used it so exclusively as the soundtrack to my life throughout childhood, from the first cassette tape I had, which was the Beach Boys' Greatest Hits, to through the MC Hammer and Terribly Dressed scene of the early 90s, through the you know, hard rock and heavy metal, and on into now, and working with artists like you. Music is my catharsis. And I don't know about you, but every single time, I didn't get into music to make money. Like, I just wanted to make a living, because music did so much for me as a child, and as a you know, adolescent, and as a young adult. It was my soundtrack to the good times and the bad times. I wanted to create that feeling for other people. And it's really that simple. And every time I get together with songwriters, probably once a session, I look around and I go, can you believe this is our freaking job? You
did it with me, which, by the way, we just totally spilled the tea that you and I are working together. I see all my fans freaking out. They'll hear the music soon. I was going to ask you, because you probably know more about this than I do, because I have never really thought of myself so much as like a business woman necessarily. I'm just like full artist in here, DIY. So like, in regards to streaming or making music, so when you're saying, like, from the beginning of your career you were just trying to make a living, that actually probably would have been tougher, because it would have been more based on like physicals, and how do you get money to like print the album, and how do you get money to okay, so it would have been very expensive. Now, can't you take your career and take it much more into your own hands by streaming services? So it actually is much more simpler to turn your music into making a living, or is it harder, or what's the deal?
It's the answer is a bit of both. And let me address the easier part. The easier part about getting into music now as a career, if you want to get into music as a career, the barrier to entry, i.e. the gatekeepers. I need to get a record deal. When I started in 2003, 2004, pursuing a music career, it was all about, we got to get a record deal. I want to sign with Columbia Records or Interscope, because that was like a brand, that was the first stage stamp of approval, right? Now we make the album, now we have a hit. If you look at the last, out of the 20 songs in the world right now, the top 20 globally on Spotify, 8 of them are brand new artists that broke off TikTok, that had no previous records. And now I'm not saying that everybody should try and game TikTok to have hits. The point I'm making is you had people that I worked on Lil Nas X's EP.
Yeah.
Right after I was with him the day that Old Town Road hit #1. Like he walked into my door and got a text from Ron Perry, "You're #1, congrats." And it was crazy. He was eating pizza on his sister's couch 9 months before that, or no, 6 months before that. So it is easier to get into music now because anybody can do it and you can monetize it. I signed an artist named Cautious Clay. Shout out Cautious Clay. Anybody's listened to Cold War, which is kind of his ubiquitous song. He has no record deal. He lives in an apartment in Brooklyn, and the guy is crushing it. And he gets no radio, and he does so well. That's the easy part. Anybody can get into it. It's good. The hard part is you are now competing with the world. Mm-hmm. So it used to be those barriers to entry, like record deals, all that stuff. It limited the amount. It made it an exclusive club. So if you signed to Hollywood Records like you did, or I was on Interscope or Columbia, it meant I was only competing with other signed artists. Now you're competing with the entire world. So it's easier, but there's a lot more music out there to compete with. So it's kind of both.
Right. So what about when you have like, a viral song, turning that into a career seems like that would also be the struggle because like you said, you don't want to disencourage TikTok artists as well because you want to be able to sustain yourself and sustain your career. So that seems like that would be a big challenge. That's
the hardest part. And what I would say to anybody that's starting, if you end up with an accidental hit, which,
I love those.
Right? They're amazing. But like, if you think about like, Dance Monkey, right? Nobody saw that coming. If you think about Roddy Ricch, The Box, which is now a TikTok song that exploded, the hardest thing to do is follow that up. The hard thing about music today, there's a lot of one-hit wonders. There's more one-hit wonders now than in the history of recorded music because these people didn't plan on having a music career.
Right.
Lil Nas X, however, followed it. It's fine. He followed Old Town Road with Panini. And by the way, Panini, by any label, by any artist standard, is a smash. It's like 1 billion streams. It's a huge record. And he's following it up. So yeah, if you're going to get into music and this is what you want to do, just make sure you've got other songs. Make sure you got more than just one.
Right. Okay. So, I want to talk about, now that we're talking about kind of accidental hits, because you were talking about, okay, so you got quarantined, you had to finish your record in quarantine. Yeah. You came out with the song, and then wait. So what happened? Because you were telling me all of a sudden now it's on like every TV commercial ever.
All right. I've never experienced anything like this in my life, and we as a band have been a very licensed band for TV commercials and movies and stuff. So I'm used to that. I've never had anything happen like in the last 4 days. I posted a song. We were finishing our album, the 5th One Republic album, was due. What is today? It's due today. Our deadline's today. Mixed, mastered, you name it. So it happened to land in the middle of quarantine. We dropped a new single called Didn't I, which is thankfully doing really, really well. But we dropped it on the Friday. It came out last Friday morning. 3 hours later, the World Health Organization announced a global pandemic. So it was kind of like a tree falling in the forest. You're like, well, there goes that. Let's see what happens. And a lot of artists feel that way right now about dropping new music during this time. So we went home, been quarantined. We had 2 songs left to finish. One of the songs on the album was called Better Days. The entire chorus already existed. I ended up writing the lyrics 5 days ago, while in quarantine. All I could write about is what's happening and how weird LA feels and how weird the world feels, but I didn't want it to be depressing. So we made it as like this glimmer of hope record, like The Good Life or something, like some of the other songs that we've done. I posted it on Instagram. The CEO of Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, whatever, like 20 car companies, called me. We just heard the song. We want to use it for our entire campaign. Nobody's really selling cars right now. We want to change our whole strategy for the next 3 months. We've already bought the ads. It's going to be everywhere starting Tuesday night. That was on Saturday. We finished the record. The commercial started. I did a live stream last night, and half my stream was, oh my God, your song is on this commercial. And we are now donating. We decided, you know what, let's partner with Spotify and Music Cares. Let's donate proceeds from the streams, the revenue from this song directly to Music Cares, because the music industry just got hammered with coronavirus. So many people have been laid off. 90% of everybody's crew has been laid off. And they don't have a plan B. Right. Because you can't go work at a restaurant. You can't go get some other side gigs. So they're literally, how am I going to pay my bills? Music Cares is a charity that pays for people that have been affected right now by COVID-19. So creators, songwriters, musicians, there's a huge fund, and Music Cares is trying to take care of our people. And so we want this song to generate money and to give it to people that need it.
I think there's two parts of music. There's the music industry, and then there's the music community, which I feel like you and I are a part of. It's about you and me and Ali Timposi and getting on the couch and like me just spilling my guts of what my last 2 years have been like. And it's very intimate. And so everything does have to stop in this time for everyone's safety so we can keep making great music. But it is challenging because there's no time like right now that you want to write a fucking song. I've never wanted to get in the room more.
Yeah. I got a text from Niall Horan yesterday. I got a text from Niall. I got a text from Jason Evigan, from Watt, from like, you name it, just saying, yo, when can we get virtual writing sessions going? Can we do this? Like everybody's tours are getting blown out and canceled. So now is the time to write songs.
Well, count me in because I'm in there. And now we can do it on Zoom or whatever, so we can have the whole freaking crew in there.
Exactly.
So, us talking and our connection, I think my fans are now knowing that we're working on the project together. And we've been talking, I talked to Mark Ronson about the same thing. And I think, again, it's just artists kind of going, when is the appropriate time to release music? So I see all the fans really asking. As soon as it feels like, for me, I'm a performer more than someone that's like, goes by like streaming or radio play. I'm a fucking performer. I want to do festivals. I want to do shows. So the minute that that's all good, our songs they're going to get to hear those. So I'm really excited for everyone to hear the music that we've made. And the last question was, who's your favorite artist that you've ever worked with?
My favorite artist besides you? I mean, Miley Cyrus. I actually did tell my manager the other day, I said, when we wrapped some of those sessions, I was like, those were some of the most effortless, funnest sessions I've ever had. It was like, you just get into a rhythm. You get into a rhythm. So I say everyone, if I have a phenomenal experience, I put it in my top 3 because I can never say what's number 1 or 2. So you'd be in my top 3, and I'm not just blowing smoke. My number 1 of all time is Paul McCartney.
That's sick.
I produced and co-wrote on his most recent album that came out last year. I flew to England. I got to play with all the Beatles instruments. He told me how is Blackbird written? How is Hey Jude written? How is like all the Yesterday? How did you come up with Eleanor Rigby? And he told me all the stories. Anytime you ask him a question, he just tells you, oh man, that's a cool story, man. Let me tell you, I remember. And he tells you the whole thing. And then he came to my studio here in LA and we finished it, and the rest is history. So yeah, Paul McCartney.
That is the best number 1 you could have. That's so sick. Ryan, everyone should follow Ryan on Instagram because your cooking is like, I didn't know that. Why have you not been bringing snacks to the studio?
I know. I bring drinks instead of snacks because Watt is always eating at the strangest times, and Allie. Everybody has weird food allergies and stuff. I don't want to mess with
snacks. Your new song's awesome. I love what you're doing with like everything just philanthropically too. You're just the man. So I can't wait till we're back in the studio. Thanks for going live with me on Bright Minded.
Thanks so much for having me.
Tell your family that I love them and I'm thinking about you guys.
Will do. Ditto.
Right.
Peace.
Bye,
be good. See you guys.
All right. Okay, and so now another very special guest, someone very close to me and to my heart, is Isley, who I am so happy to have on the show. We've written songs like Nothing Breaks Like a Heart together, The Most, Dream. We've written a ton of songs together, so I'm excited for y'all to get to meet Isley Juber. So she's one of my favorite writers to write with, so I'm going to add her in right now. Hi, Isley.
Hey, can you hear me?
HQ, high quality queen.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Well, I wanted to start with, Isley is one of my favorite writers to work with because it mostly just becomes a therapy session. We laugh, we cry, we never know if we're going to write a song about our hoo-ha or heartbreak. We've written about everything.
Pretty much,
I'm so happy to have you on the show. And I wanted to ask, when did you know that being a songwriter was just it for you? Was there any other option? I could not imagine you being anything but a songwriter.
Well, the first thing I was going to be was a drummer. Actually, no, the first thing I was going to be was a baseball player. And that was when
You and my dad both. Did you see
that
my
was when I
dad
was
yesterday
11.
say he wanted to be Johnny Bench?
Yeah, I mean, my first passion was drums, actually. So that was when I was like 11. And that was because of Zach Hansen. I was obsessed with Hansen.
Oh, duh.
Yeah, obviously. Um, and then when I was about 15, I started writing songs, and that was like it for me. And pretty much the second I started writing songs was like,
So, did you write songs like immediately on piano? Because I know you play piano. She pretty much plays everything, everyone. Elsie plays everything. So, did you ever write songs like on the drums? That seems like that's one of the last. I guess now
well,
though that kind of makes sense because people make beats and then write songs to beats. Like, how did you write?
well, I tried to write songs on drums, but it was kind of difficult, which is
Sounds
why
nuts.
I started playing guitar.
Right, because you're all ooh, ooh, ta ta.
Well, what I used to do is I put headphones on, like giant headphones, and I would play the drums and I would play along to like Third Eye Blind
Yeah,
and Dave Matthews Band, and I
yeah.
would try to sing along at the same time, and it wasn't so easy.
I was
Um,
talking about all the mosaic of like how I became who I am through the artists I was inspired by. Now that you're talking about Third Eye Blind, Hanson, Dave Matthews, I'm starting to understand you more and more.
yeah.
We've been writing together for like 2 years, and I don't know how I never put this together. Speaking of like Third Eye Blind and Hanson and all these like male bands, we live in a male dominant music industry. How do
Very
you think
true.
that your experience has been different by being a female in the music industry?
Um, I mean, I think that just inherently being female, it's going to be different because I come from a female perspective. You know, I think when you're the only girl in the room, you sort of have to fight for your place a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this thing happens where when I walk into a room, a lot of times people assume that I'm a top liner, which is
Right.
a word that's thrown around a lot for like female songwriters.
So what does
And
that mean? What does a top liner mean?
well, a top liner is somebody that they refer to as somebody who writes like on top of a beat, on top of a track or something like that. And for somebody who plays instruments and somebody who, you know, makes music and is a full songwriter, I don't consider myself a top liner. And I
I did
think,
not even know what the hell that meant when someone
yeah,
would tell me someone was a great top liner. I was like, that's great. I'm a
yeah.
top too. So they think that you wouldn't really be playing your own instruments, right? So people wouldn't really know, assuming that you're like a multi-instrumentalist.
Yeah, I think that people just assume that, you know, that I'm kind of one note and that I only do one thing. And so they, you know, when people assume that they don't necessarily open it up to, you know, looking at me as a full songwriter. And
Right.
so you sort of have to prove yourself. I think that's really what it is as a female, there's a little more of having to prove yourself as opposed to being the benefit of the doubt, you know?
Right, because I feel that a lot too, because I'm a female and I like to wear, you know, shiny, metallic, crystallized things, which so did David Bowie,
Yeah.
so does Jagger, so do all these guys, and they're considered rock stars. Elton
Yeah.
John's a rock star, you know, when they wear, and I don't know if it's because, oh, that's because people feel like that's them going against the norm because men aren't supposed to wear shiny
Mm,
things. I can't figure it out why that's considered like glam rock, but if a female does it, then it's considered a pop star. And so I
right.
have to like kind of compete sometimes with, oh, I'm like a chick that, you know, sometimes I want to be in like my sneakers like I am today and sweatpants, but some days I do want to put on my like platform shoes. And when Bowie does it, it's considered rock and roll. But if I do it, then I'm a pop star. So I think the labels are, again, that's just like our enemy. I think in life in general, just labels just get in the way.
Yeah, and I think that there's something also to the fact that like, you know, I'm not the most feminine female. I don't tend to like go over to you know, I don't wear dresses, I don't wear a lot of makeup like, and I think maybe because of that, it's been a little bit easier for me in terms of like not being too threatening in a room
Right.
with men, but I don't think that that's a good thing. I think that I should
Well,
be able to be whatever I want.
that makes a lot of sense too, because I'm sure also other women would feel threatened too. I know that
Yeah.
I've talked to a couple of our other female writing friends that said when they go in to write with other females, and if they wear anything that feels like showy, or if they do makeup or hair, they assume that you want to be an artist and that you two are competing.
Right.
Our really good friend Allie, I was talking to her about that also. She's like,
Yeah.
you got to come in making it very clear that you don't want to be an artist, that you're going to keep your place, and that you're just a songwriter.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, then like, to me, I have to be in my element, in my style to write music. And that's unfair if you have to come in playing yourself down because men are going to be distracted by your sexuality, or women are going to feel competitive towards you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a microcosm of how women are treated in the world in general. It's not like different from any other industry. It's just happens to be music industry.
I agree. And that's crazy that you started talking about like whether you feel feminine or how you kind of carry yourself. Because the question I had was, when you walk into a room, or anyone walks into a room, the presence of us speaks before we actually do. And so you and I are usually in like big hoodies and Doc Martens.
Yeah.
And do you think that intimidates males in the industry because we're kind of like dominant? Or do you feel like you said, like they almost kind of then don't feel threatened or distracted? Because I love how, like, I feel like if I saw you out, I would guess you're an artist or a songwriter already. And I like to wear things that are expressive the same way that I would write songs. I want my insides to be outside by what I wear. And so how do you think that, like, the way that you dress and your style, how does that come into songwriting and the vibe in a room when you come in?
I mean, I think that, I just want to be comfortable, and I want to be able to feel like I'm in my most natural state of being, because I think that that's the only way that I can write a song, is if I'm trying to be something that I'm not, or if I'm trying to put on some kind of mask, then I can't be in touch with the thing that makes me a good songwriter. And I try. I don't know. I don't like to generalize in terms of like what men are going to think or not think, or women are going to think or not think, because I think that everybody's different. And I think there probably are some people that are intimidated, and then some people that aren't. But, I think that the thing that I've tried to find within myself is just a sense of authenticity. And I know, you have too. We've talked a lot about that, where the more authentic you are to yourself in terms of musically, stylistically, as a person, the more true your art can be.
I mean, I can't even write songs with makeup on because I can't move my face around. The minute that I have makeup on, I'm like trying to sing, and it's like, oh, could you hit like that on like the E, or could you do an ooh? And I'm like, I would love to, but I can't move my face because I caked it on today.
But that's a perfect metaphor, though. It's like, if you wear a mask, you can't express yourself.
That's exactly it. And also, we spend long hours in the studio. I mean, we get there in the morning sometimes. We get there in the morning and leave in the morning sometimes.
Yeah.
And you want to be able to be like comfy and creative. And like, you and I will lay on the floor. We lay on the couch. We go, like, you just want to be able to do your thing. And again, like, I can't do that if go in there wearing something that feels constricting. Like, I can't write. I want to feel like I can just float and like be free and like not be constricted. So I was going to ask you, when it comes to songwriting and the process, I know your process because I've shared studio time with you, but it's different every time that we write. Like, I don't think that you have a formula.
Yeah.
But some days you go into a session and like, you and I usually book out, 2 weeks or something. So we don't have that demand of you have to leave the studio with the song, because I can't write like that. But I'm sure that some artists, you're a little bit more in a crunch of you actually need to leave the studio session with a song. So in times like that, is there a formula or an ingredient besides matcha?
Besides matcha, oh man.
Matcha, we do intravenous matcha at some point.
Basically. I mean, I think that the only secret ingredient that I could ever say is just like truth and honesty. Like, the more you can get to some sense of like what you're actually feeling, what's real to you and what's true to you, the quicker you can get to that, the more easily you can write something. And that's why, like, when you and I have conversations, so much of the time we'll just be talking and then one of us will be like, oh my God, that's a great song title, or that's a great lyric, because it always comes from just what you're really feeling, what you're really going through. And I think that the more you can be in touch with like what is actually going on in your life and what you're actually feeling. So I think that that's where the special sauce comes in. I don't, a lot of people try to say like, okay, you do the verse and the pre-chorus and
the bridge and the chorus and the pre-chorus and that.
I think if you listen to like, the classic songs and stuff, and if you listen to the best songs of all time, you can find some patterns in there and study them. But at the end of the day, it just comes from your experience and your truth.
And so with you saying that, like, oh, we'll say something and then it'll come into a song title. Our first session, Nothing Breaks, you and I weren't, okay, this is actually crazy. You and I weren't even as close yet. And we ended up starting a second song that night when we finished Nothing Breaks. Do you remember? I can't remember exactly we started. But we started a song afterwards because we started having a conversation for Nothing Breaks. And like, I think the verses started getting like, okay, now we're getting too far from the chorus, but let's make sure we keep that. Yeah. Because that's another song also. So like the way me and Isley kind of write, for people watching, it's like, I was telling you, I remember one night we were super drunk in Tennessee and he told me this, and you're like, you were drunk in London, Tennessee? Yeah. And it's like, of course. And so we really just write by what we're chatting about. And same thing that you with Noah. I met Elsie through Noah. Yeah. And it's funny because you and I are like a little, closer in probably like age and experience to even some of the like gender stuff and things like that. Of talking about like, oh, I want to wear my sweatshirts. And like, I find myself to walk into a room and be intimidating because I'm kind of like dominant and, all these different things. But when you're even writing for someone, like Noah, what she's going through from like a 20-year-old's perspective. And a great songwriter is really a great listener because you just listen and translate.
Yeah. And I mean, your sister's an incredible songwriter and it's the same kind of thing where it's like her and I will be talking. And there's a song that we've written together, Topanga. That's one of my favorite songs I've ever been a part of. And that just came from talking about Topanga Canyon in LA.
I love that song.
And I think it's just that, people have this idea that you can't be too specific in a song because then it won't be relatable to people. But a lot of times, the more specific you are, the more relatable it'll be because then people will relate it to something specific in their own lives.
I totally, totally agree. So I want to ask you about that. I want to ask you about our style. Oh, and for my last question I have for you is I wanted to know, were there any super impactful, can be women, but also just like artists in general besides Third Eye Blind, that was super impactful on your career? I was asking Mark too. You guys just have such good taste. And so many people want to like get recommendations right now on movies and TV and music. So for music, what would you recommend for everyone to listen to right now?
I mean, in terms of the most impactful people in my life would probably be my parents just early on because, that's who first exposed me to music.
Even explain that too about like your dad obviously was a musician. You kind of grew up in the music and actually just like the industry in general. So your grandparents worked on, explain that.
Yeah, so my grandfather was a television creator, producer, and made awesome TV shows, Brady Bunch, Gilligan, stuff like that. And
boom, things like that.
Things like that. He was actually he was the very first songwriter in my family because he did like the theme songs and stuff. And then, but my mom was actually in like a comedy rock and roll band the whole time I was growing up.
So am I. That's my aesthetic.
Comedy rock and roll.
Yeah, I'm a comedy rock and roll solo artist, but same thing.
And my parents were just so passionate about music. My dad's a fingerstyle acoustic guitar player. He played in Wings with Paul McCartney in the 70s, and now he's like an incredible fingerstyle guitar player. And they were so passionate about music, and we would drive around listening to like the Beatles, the Eagles, Fleetwood Mac, Simon and Garfunkel, just like the classics. And when I started listening to music on my own, you and I bonded over like Beth Hart as like an amazing female singer-songwriter.
That's kind of probably most of these fans actually only maybe know Beth Hart because I cover I cover her cover. It's a third generation cover. I cover her cover of I'll Take Care of You. And I've always credited Beth Hart to that song. Cause it's funny. I was talking to Tedder about this, and Ronson, how you can, some artists of the newer generation, you can take a classic old song and make it your own so much that like even Prince would write records for other artists and no one would even know that Prince is the writer.
Yeah.
You know, so you can actually,
like nothing compares to you.
yeah, for Sinead O'Connor. So these songs you can take and cover and make them your own, even if you don't write them. So I was asking Tedder what he thinks about people putting music up on YouTube and on Spotify. That's a great way to do it as well. Just to, if you're not necessarily a songwriter, but you're a really talented artist or singer or guitar player, it's great. You can really make your cover of a song your own, really, if you really interpret it in a unique way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, especially like you guys were talking about, with everybody on the show, like now is the time to really explore all the parts of yourself that like you've always wanted to. And I think that there's that saying like necessity is the mother of all invention. And when you're forced to sort of do things in a different way, amazing things can come out of it. And we're seeing that right now with like, hospitals being forced to figure out how to use ventilators in a new way, and people making all these masks and you make vaccines when a new virus comes around because you have to. And even for myself right now, I'm like teaching myself how to use Pro Tools because I can't go into the studio with anybody. So I'm like, well, I guess I have to learn how to record myself. And I think that like now is the time for people to be making those covers that they've always wanted to make and teaching themselves the instruments they've always wanted to learn. And I think that it's a really difficult time for people, but it can also be a really creative time. And we're stuck, so you got to make the most of it, I think.
I agree. Elsie, you were like so awesome. I think so many people, I can see everyone writing just how inspired they are. Oh yeah, can we show the real stars? Hi baby! Oh my goodness. Hold on, I have to introduce you to your cousin. Come here. Come here. Actually, this new puppy is because of Elsie. Oh, the puppy under the couch. Oh, he's sleepy. This is because of Elsie, because you sent me pictures of puppies on Instagram that you should go, and there I went. So he's an angel. His name is Bo, short for Rainbow.
Moose, say hi to Bo.
When we're allowed, we'll have a puppy play date very soon. Can you believe this right now?
Unbelievable. The fact that I can't give him a kiss is very, very frustrating to me.
I wish someone would hold me like this, but that would not be keeping my 3 to 6 feet. So thank you, Elsie, for being on the show, and thank you for encouraging me to get another puppy.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Dogs.
Thank you for having me.
And Elsie, can't wait to get back in the studio. Bye. Okay, that was a great show. One of my favorites, getting to talk about music and songwriting. That was my puppy. Okay, so I want everyone to tune in tomorrow. It is going to be an episode where we celebrate LGBTQ history. I'll have queer historian Matthew Reamer, celebrity photographer Vijay Mohindra, Nicole Richie and Paris Hilton, and Michelle Visage from RuPaul's Drag Race. Also, don't forget to check out To Right Love, Honor Arms, and also, I'm sure you saw on my Insta stories, but these cases, Hannah Montana inspired from Urban Sophistication. If you go to their website and you use Happy Hippie as the code in checkout, you'll be able to have the profits go towards Happy Hippie for Feeding America. So they're super cool. I have one on my phone right now. Don't forget about To Right Love. Here's the crisis text line. Tomorrow, Nicole Richie, Paris Hilton, more Nicole, and celebrity photographer Vijay Mohindra, who always believes that something wonderful is about to happen. All right, everybody, I'll see you tomorrow. And do not forget that hope will not be canceled. Go to TrueRightLoveHonorArm.com. All right, have a great day, everybody. I love spending my mornings with Have a great day, everybody. I love spending my mornings with y'all, and I'll see you tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. PT for another episode of Bright Minded.